Today, we are going to discuss the Common Core state standards for math. We will spend the majority of our time learning how the math standards have been divided into two forms: the standards for mathematical content and the standards for mathematical practice. As you can see from the image on the screen, they have many similarities and differences, the largest of which is that the content standards address the what of math, while the practice standards focus on how students will learn the content standards. Let's take a deeper look at what these differences are. So, when I talk about the standards for mathematical content, I am speaking about the standards that you are probably most familiar with. Some of these standards look like estimate the length of an object using inches, centimeters, and meters, or divide multi-digit numbers using the standard algorithm. Each of these standards are expected to be mastered at a specific grade level and ultimately guide a teacher's year-long planning. They are considered the nouns of math, which really means what specific knowledge students are to gain in each grade level. As you know from your experience from teaching, the standards for mathematical content differ at each grade level. The specific things students are supposed to know and understand change. For example, in first grade, students will be learning how to add numbers, while in third grade, students will be learning how to multiply numbers. The standards for mathematical practice, though, are most likely less familiar to you. In all, there are only 8 of these standards. They are more broad. For example, use appropriate tools strategically, and look for and make sense of structure. Their wide-ranging nature is due to the fact that these standards measure the processes and methods a mathematician employs while working through a problem. Consequently, these are called the verbs of math, and students will develop these over the course of their entire K-12 career. Just like teachers teach and assess the standards for mathematical content, teachers must also teach and assess students on the standards for mathematical practice. How they teach them and how they assess them vary based on grade level. I like to think of the analogy of riding a bike. When we first learn to ride a bike, there's usually some training wheels and probably an adult nearby. After I spend some time learning how to ride the bike, I might take off the training wheels, and eventually I might go without a parent and without training wheels. It's kind of the same for the standards for mathematical practice. Being able to use tools to reason abstractly and quantitatively, they're going to be a little bit more simple and supported in our earlier grades. And as students move on and get more practice, some of those supports are going to be taken away as students learn how to do them independently. Let's take one last look at what these standards are. We see that the first is to make sense of problems and persevere in solving them. The second is to reason abstractly and quantitatively. The third is to construct viable arguments and critique the reasoning of others. The fourth is to model with mathematics. The fifth is to use appropriate tools strategically. The sixth is to attend to precision. The seventh is to look for and make use of structure. And the final and 8th standard for mathematical practice is look for and express regularity in repeated reasoning. We'll take a look at each of these in our next task.